Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, and I'm back in tanks, and this is the new US American Rank 7 Battle Rating 10.0 World War Mode Reward Tank. So it's not a premium, and when you get it, it gets at you delivered stock, no modules. So the question is this tank worth the effort? Well, that is upon you, but this is not a premium. I need to stress this out. This is not a premium tank, this is a mere reward tank. However, this might be outright the highest battle rating reward tank that we have seen in the game so far. I think previously one of the highest was the BMP-2M, which is a clan reward tank. A clan activity reward tank. Anyway, back to the M60 and what it kind of is. Is the AMBT version now finally bringing redemption to the M60, which I absolutely despise? Well, kind of, yes it does. Look, this is, if you look at the battle rating, the counter or an addition to the 10.0 lineup, where we have the M1 Abrams, the IMP-1, and so the question is, does it fit in? Well, it kind of doesn't deliver the same. It gives you a bit more variety, because this tank has a hefty punch. It has a 120mm M256 cannon with 40 rounds of ammunition, and also what a lot of people are interested in is a top-mounted 25mm LW25 cannon with 300 rounds of ammunition. And on top of this you have smoke launchers, a heavy machine gun, a light machine gun, and all this in a okayish package. It's all about the gun. This is a classic glass cannon. It is not really that fast, but by no means as slow as, other M60 series tank. And the gun could be at a higher battle rating from its punch. More on this in just a moment. So let's talk about the armor. This tank is an M60 with around the turret a cage, which is very funny because sometimes heat goes through the cage and still impacts on the turret when you shoot between the bars or the ribs, if you will, and the same with hash, and sometimes it helps you, but it is not really covering the entirety of the tank's turret, and especially not the front, just the side and the rear. Then we have some armored side skirts, composite screen 65mm. The hull is also not that notoriously thin. In places it is up to 70mm and the rest is 36 and 45. The front though is cast homogeneous armor, a bit of add-on plating, but this is effectively like a T-54 series tank in terms of protection. APFSDS will go straight through with no problems. Same for the turret. It is a steel tank in a composite era, so don't really rely on your armor. That's the short message. Then we come to the mobility, and this is where this tank takes a step up. It has 54.5 tons to carry around, but it is equipped with a new 1200 horsepower strong diesel engine. Currently there is a little bit of a glitch in the game, or in my settings, I don't know, but I don't hear the engine. But this is actually to my advantage. I've played around with the settings, I just simply don't hear the engine, even after restarting the game, etc. But anyway, that gives this tank not just a top speed of 58 kilometers per hour, which is not really that exciting if other MBTs go between 70 and 80, even higher speeds, but at least we have a horsepower to ton ratio of 22. And you go to places, just imagine it like a Challenger tank, that roughly in that region. Now, while the mobility is okay, the maneuverability leaves things to be desired. The maximum backward speed is 14 kilometers per hour. That's not tragic, but for top tier it just lacks a little bit of snappiness. Also, you feel the weight when using the neutral steering or regenerative turning, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. So the tank is still on the slower side, but it's not that slow. Now let's come to the gun. The gun is the 120mm M256 cannon, 40 rounds of ammunition, and they are mostly in front of the loader on the right hand side if you look at the tank, and left and right to the driver, because reasons. So to not ammo rack this tank from the front is actually difficult. And despite the tank being spacious and the crew being spread out, you have 4 crew members, you get one shot very often. But also it happens that you take multiple hits and the darts go through because enemies don't know what kind of tank you are, and they have forgotten to shoot at M60s. But the majority of times this kind of surprise factor will not help you. Anyway, the gun. So what makes this gun so special is the top APFSDS round, which is a tier 3 modification, the KEW APFSDS round. 1585 meters per second is really good, and you have 583 millimeters of penetration at 0 degrees angles of attack, and at 60 degrees angles of attack 337. That is respectively plus 100 and plus 60 millimeters of penetration compared to the DM33. And it is actually exceeding the penetration values of the Leclerc's 120mm OFL 120 F1 shell. So this makes this, I think, the second strongest shell in the game, if you count here the Italian and the Swedish high penetrating APFSDS round as one round, because it has overall the same statistics. So what does this mean? Well, the tank is still fragile. It can be penned even by SBA due to the turret ring and gaps in the armor. The gun mantlet is still very fragile. The tank is not really that mobile when racing to the top spots, the top camping spots. Especially uphill, it struggles a bit. It is restricted with the top speed. But, I have no idea how I killed this Leopard, by the way. But it punches clean through the majority of armor that you come across. Only the most heaviest of armor, like certain parts of the turret front of a Soviet MBT, or the STRV 122 in certain aspects, and Leopard armor can actually partially resist it. But if you have good aim, if you know where to shoot, the shell really has a lot of punch, it's easy to aim, it's precise, and it does a lot of damage. And I think that this is kind of a saving grace. And also the battle rating. Sometimes you are the top dog. Again, armor and mobility are not exciting, but then you punch clean through everything. And this gives this tank a distinct glass cannon style. Now, at first I was thinking about this when I first saw that it was announced. Oh god, another M60. What is this mutant? Well, that's actually one of those things that you shouldn't fall for, because it's this top mounted 25mm. Now you're wondering why I haven't spoken about this. Because it's not really that interesting, and actually the heavy machine gun at 12.7 is more useful. First of all, you only have HE. Despite a surprisingly high muzzle velocity of 900 meters per second and 55 grams of TNT equivalent bursting charge, you only have 3 millimeters of penetration. And that not even reliably puts down helicopters with multiple hits. And on top of this, you only have, quote unquote, only have 300 rounds with a reload of 0.4 seconds. So this is like plop, 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 more like this. Don't get fooled into thinking that this is like a IFV 25mm cannon. Sadly, it's not. If it would be substantially more useful. And I would say this tank is a surprising hit. But the 25 is more or less useless, rarely useful actually. If it would have even the 25mm M242 from the M3 Bradley, I would say okay. But it doesn't. And please keep this in mind. So, what remains is a tank that then fits my playstyle for me to get better results. Now, if this doesn't make sense to you, hear me out. This tank doesn't race with the top MBTs. It's just simply not fast enough. And it also doesn't really go to the front line and can take the hits like an STRV 122. But it supports the Abrams with long-range gunfire, with effective firepower, and this is what the tank is best at. This is a really strong APFSDS round. This is really a tank that can dish out the damage. The rest of it is actually not that exciting. Now, while the US already have so many tanks at top ranks and so much diversity, at least this is not breaking the game. And I think that this is now also introducing the first Turkey tank into the game. It's a Turkish modification, if I'm not mistaken. So what remains is a tank that I, surprisingly enough, actually like. Do I recommend it? Again, it's not a premium. So it is more like a collector's item, a reward if you really like World War mode. The World War mode itself, for me, it gets a nope, because the way that it is playing out. But other than this, the reward, at least when it comes to the tank, yeah, it's okay, it's decent. So you could see the post-penetration damage effect, it's absolutely insane. But I have the feeling that Gaijin will tune this down. I have the feeling Gaijin will nerf the effectiveness of the APFSDS round. If not the pure penetration power, I think the post-penetration damage effect will get really butchered. And this is what always happens. Always when there is a good reward tank playing ship, at some point it gets, a second look from Gaijin. And this is what I'm warning you about. Now, this sounds a bit pessimistic, but it is more about realistically looking at the tank. So this is a support vehicle. This is not you get this tank and then you don't have to research the rest of the US main tech tree. No, this is a support tank. So if it is actually useful for you, if you kind of like this, maybe this gets you into the higher battle rating taste of high penetrating guns. But again, the stock run is not that easy because the stock heat FS is the usual experience and it doesn't really get supported by the other statistics. So the gun, fantastic. Armor nobility, kind of below average. The 25 is not a meme, not a selling factor. Just simply forget about it. That is the short summary of this tank, which took me 13 minutes. Okay, I think you could endure this. So I had the suspicious feeling that there were not that many helicopters around to test the 25 against. In fact, this KA-50 I think that I shot down in one of the beginning clips was one of just 5 helicopters the entire day that I encountered. So yeah, what remains is a really powerful APFSDS. I've said this now 7 times. Yeah. And what else should you want to know? That's it. So again, not a premium tank. Quick look at the post-battle results. Heavy Metal Hero, Survivor, 55,000 civilians, of which 16,000 came from the awards, 7,000 RP income. Decent result. That's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.